All right. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Thursday Night Hang here on the Ono Live channel. We're doing the coffee and cigars. Thursday Night Hang, we're here every Thursday night, pretty much most every Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to be smoking cigars and drinking coffee here on the Coffee and Cigars live stream. How's it going? Hope you're doing well this week. Today we got an interesting cigar, and I've got some weird thing going on with my, with my ears. Now that it's cold again outside, I get the sniffles. And so the sniffles means that I got to blow my nose. And right before I hit the start button, I'm blowing my nose. And what's going on there? I just can't breathe. It's terrible. So how y'all doing? Everything going well? This week has been a good one. A pretty good one. Yeah, it's been a good week. Yeah, what did we do this week? We didn't do, what did I do? I don't know what I did. I don't know. Let's have a look here and see. But today we've got the Carrillo Honduras Robusto, which is our cigar of the week. And then we've got a coffee. Let's do the coffee first. We'll do the coffee first. I got to get in. Today we're not going to brew hot coffee. We're going to do cold coffee. Let's see my cooler here. So today I thought we would have this coffee from a company called UCC. UCC is a company based in Japan called Ueshima Coffee Company. UCC, Ueshima Coffee Company. Mom, how are you, man? Good to see you. Good to see you as always, Bryant. And, gosh, we're all moving around here. And UCC is a pretty big company. They're very large as far as coffee company goes. And they make this one coffee called the Hawaii Kona Blend coffee with milk. And it's in a can. When I used to live in Honolulu, we would sometimes drink this because, when you don't know anything about coffee, you're like, ooh, Kona should be really nice. And, and not that Kona is a bad coffee. Kona can be very, very good. There's truly excellent Konas that are out there. But majority of them are just kind of okay coffees, right? Okay coffees. So we're going to have this. So the nice thing about this, we don't have to do too much brewing. We just kind of grab the cap here and, there's no carbonation or anything, so there's no big fizz. Oh my God, that is sweet. Holy smokes. Woo. So calories, 120 calories. Good Lord, I probably should have paid more attention to that. When I bought this at the Japanese market the other day, I didn't realize that I didn't even think about checking whether or not it was a sweetened drink. And it is a sweet drink. Wow, so 120 calories. This is a 12 ounce or 11.4 fluid ounce can. And it has 120 grams. Now, a 12 ounce can of Coca-Cola has 130 to 130 calories. So since this is, 0.6 ounces less, it's got 120. So this is pretty much Coca-Cola, which is a terrible thing, actually. George, man, how are you? It's not too bad, George. Is it outside? I mean, I've got the garage doors open, so I got the heater running, so it's not too bad where I am. But I am, yeah. I've been building. So this week I've been building a chair, and I've just, here's the thing. When I do these wood projects, what I'm doing is really not woodworking. I'm just mucking it up royally. I'm making this chair, right? So here's the chair. Here's the seat of the chair. Kind of like a flying V. I actually think the V is a little bit too strong. Oh, it's a good. Okay, good. But, this is the shape, right? And you see this crack here. It's cracked. So I'm planning to put these butterfly type things, decorative, kind of make it nice. The chair itself, the design of the chair, I think is pretty cool. I didn't design it. Somebody, Mira Nakashima designed it. Well, I cut out these two halves because I used a template to create the two halves out of walnuts. And I used dominoes to create the joinery. But you have to glue it together. And so when I glued it together, now here's the problem. So you've got these round shapes. Well, clamps don't work very well. And I know this, right? I've seen a lot of the YouTube videos where they talk about it and they have to like find ways to like, put on, staple on other pieces or whatever to like help give that clamping pressure. Well, I know this. I still didn't pay attention to it. And I'm trying to put it together. And during dry fit, man, this fit beautifully, like perfectly together. But when I put the glue on, I'm trying to put it together, it won't go together. So I'm like, oh crap. And I'm using this thing called Type Bond 2 glue, which has a very like narrow window of time before it starts to set up too much and it doesn't work, like 5 minutes. And I'm like, oh crap, now I gotta hurry up. So I'm like, okay, I can't get the clamps to work. And I'm trying all these clamps, trying all these ways. I probably should have, done a dry run with the clamping, but I didn't. So I think to myself, okay, pocket holes. I can use pocket holes to like go from the underside of the top and pull them from like one and one and pull it together and then pull them out later and but it's on the bottom so no one will know the difference, right? As long as I turn it over, it's be fine. Problem is, I don't know what I'm doing. Like I'm really bad at this. So I get the pocket hole jig out and I'm drilling the hole into it. I'm drilling the holes and I'm screwing the screws into it. I'm like, okay. I'm panicking. I'm in a rush. Son of a gun. This face is the bottom of the chair. This face is the top of the chair. It's like, so it worked brilliantly. It pulled them together and I've already taken the screws out of it. But now on the side that's supposed to be the top, I have these two holes. And man, the moment I realized that, I was like, son of a gun, what am I going to do now? I was thinking, I'm going to use this side of it instead, right? Just turn it over, no big deal. But the problem is, the joints are referenced from this face, not this face. So the gap, you can see the gap better, I think. Or maybe I could plane it down. But I was like, gosh darn it. Every stage on this chair build, I have mucked up in some way. But, we just keep moving forward. All right, so we've got our Kona, UCC Kona blend with milk and sugar. It's not terribly great. Like, I would not recommend going and buying it. So let's move on to our cigar of the evening. So like I said, tonight's cigar was actually originally gifted to me by George Brightman. So George, when I was down this past Saturday, I went down to Capital Cigar. George was there, so we hung out. He's like, hey man, I want you to try this cigar. Ethan, how are you, man? Good to see you. Welcome to the show. Good to see you. So he says to me, I want you to try this cigar. I think you'll find it interesting. I was like, all right, we'll try it. I'll try just about everything. So tonight's cigar is a cigar that I have had previously. It is a cigar that I have enjoyed previously, and previously, but meaning Saturday. I enjoyed it so much, the cigar that he gave me, that I actually bought a couple more because I wanted to explore it a little bit more. And I thought, you know what, let's use it here on tonight's show. And so this is the EP Carrillo Honduras. And so Ernesto Perez Carrillo is one of the famous cigar legends. He's now a legend. He was famous when I was starting out in cigars because he had a place called La Gloria Cubana, Cuban guy, right, in Miami, and made these cigars. La Gloria Cubanas were like wildly popular back then, and so when he sold it off and became, whatever, wealthy, and he's done a bunch of other stuff. But this is his latest thing. He has this line of cigars now that is country specific in that he's exploring the flavors of the tobaccos from that country. Actually, I probably should have read about this, but this is really what George was telling me. I didn't read about it. So this is what I've gathered in very short conversations, that Ernesto Perez Carrillo is exploring different tobaccos from different countries and trying to create cigars that are representative, I guess, of the tobacco from that country. And so this is the Honduran. I believe it's made with tobaccos from Dunley, and he makes it at his factory in the Dominican Republic. I don't know how much these cost. I don't know. I should look it up, but I don't know offhand how much they cost. They're not extreme price. Maybe like $14 or something like that, $10 to $14, somewhere right around there. And let me tell you my I'll tell you my impressions of the cigar before we begin, and then we'll see if it continues or and this way you can know, if you can judge for yourself whether or not my previous experience with this being so recent. Because most of the time I try to bring cigars that I'm not necessarily smoking regularly or maybe haven't smoked in a while, so that hopefully the palate is fresher and less led astray by my own personal whims than what we're actually tasting. So I thought this cigar had really we've talked in the past about how I'm not a big fan of Pepin Garcia cigars, mainly because he has this minerality to it. Brian, what's going on, man? Good to see you. How are you doing this week? Mainly because of this minerality that he has. And that minerality, whatever that minerality that Pepin and his son favor for their Garcia branded cigars, I just don't really groove with as well. And when he came up with the 20th anniversary, that I really liked the 20th anniversary, which is one of our highest rated cigars on the show. I really enjoyed that more than his other cigars because that element of minerality, whatever that tobacco that they're using that has this minerality in it, they removed it or they didn't put it in that cigar. And I ended up enjoying it so much more. Mom says, I didn't enjoy it. I like the Nicaraguan blend a little bit. You mean you didn't enjoy this one? Okay, and so, and I can kind of understand that, right? Because here's the thing: when I smoked this originally, it had a nice minerality, but the minerality I would was nothing like the minerality of the Pepin Garcia cigars. Very different. To my palate, much more approachable, much more enjoyable. This cigar was also quite bright and had some floral notes. I really liked this cigar. Like I really enjoyed it. It was very different. It was a very different cigar than I had normally smoked. Like you know me, I like to do the heavier cigars like the Roma Crafts or some of the more beautiful, delicate cigars like the Mirfeld. This is not like those. This is very, very minerality, brightness, some florality to it. Very different, like super different. And so I thought, let's try it again. And what got me thinking about this cigar was that, George mentioned something about like, cigars and coffee. And I was like, you know what might be interesting is to try this cigar again, get to know this cigar a little bit more, and maybe look at different producers in Honduras that I know that grow coffee and seeing what kind of Honduran coffee, looking forward now, can we use to pair with the cigar, right? Pairings, more specific pairings with coffee and cigars. Right now, for the most time when this shows, we're just kind of tasting coffee and tasting cigars and seeing how they go together. Just seeing, do they work together? Maybe they don't. Maybe they do. But we're not really developing blends for cigars. I used to do that. I did that for Fratello for many years. We did, and if ever they needed, we will always do it again. And we do have we do have a coffee blend that's called the Esteli blend, that basically just kind of a generic kind of blend a broad line blend of coffee that's designed to work with a broad line of like cigars, nothing really specific. Like the Fratello the red label Fratello when we first started in 2013 and the coffee for that very specific to that particular cigar. Not so much the rest of his other lines, the extensions, but really to the red line. So Devin, man, how are you today? Good to see you. How's everything going? So let's get into it. We're gonna get into it. We're gonna take it out of its cello, and what are you guys all smoking today? Let me know if you're smoking anything interesting. I'm always curious to know what you have. So you can see the wrapper's fairly Maduro style, like darker, right? So I think this is a Honduran wrapper. I'm presuming from the Dunley region because that's really where a lot of tobacco is grown, is in Dunley, which is closer to the border with Nicaragua. And it's interesting, like there's so many like parallels in Central America with coffee and cigars. Like Cigars, of course, tobacco is grown at lower elevations, valley elevations. Whereas coffee, we want to grow them higher elevations, more mountainous regions. So it's not uncommon, I think, in Central America to find, or at least in Nicaragua and Honduras to find, and a little bit in Costa Rica, that you got coffee farms here in the mountain, and in the valley, there's tobacco. Like if you're taking the drive from Manila along the Pan American Highway out towards Matagalpa or Esteli, there's actually a town where when you're driving out of the city, there's a town, a pretty big town where you stop, and it basically splits into a Y. And if you go to the right, you're going to Matagalpa, and if you go to the left, you're going to Esteli, and there's about another hour or whatever it is for either city. And it's only about an hour between the two, and you can. But on the way out there, as you're leaving Manila, there's this massive, like they over the last 10 years, they built this massive like tobacco plantation. Like it's like, wow, this is crazy, like craziness. So yeah, they kind of go hand in hand. They kind of go hand in hand. Devin says, thanks. Going well. I'm smoking the Ilusiones Singular. Oh, nice. Those are nice. I like those. And George Sham is having the Wiseman Maduro. Excellent. Excellent. What are you drinking there, George? I know you're drinking something out there. So this color is fairly dark. Fairly dark. I'm going to note that down in our wrapper identifier here. So fairly dark. And it comes with a footband. EP Carrillo. EP Carrillo. And then looks like there's a QR code. So if you want to scan the QR code, you can. And take that off. But it's very, very nice wrapper. Very pretty wrapper. Kind of silky feeling, really smooth and like luscious. It feels luscious. I've got a little bit of sniffling, so definitely some brightness on the nose. Definitely not the barnyard manure that we get from a lot of Nicaraguan cigars. Very different. Maybe slight amounts of hay. Okay, we're going to cut this open. There's our cut. Look at that. That's like a professional cut. Cold draw, very free flowing, very easy draw. Very little resistance in the cold draw. Actually, I'm hoping that it will gain resistance when we light it, because I feel like if it was a lit cigar, it's too much draw. George says he's drinking a tasty cab that Joel got. Oh, Joel. One of my girlfriends, she loves the Joel gut. Like whenever we all get together, she always brings Joel. And if she's gonna bring the wine, it's always a big Joel gut. And I think Joel gut, solid. I don't know if it's an expensive wine. I'm presuming because of hers, it's not. But it's always pleasantly enjoyable. I think it's very pleasantly enjoyable. Brian says my box arrived yesterday. Oh, what box? Box of cigars or box of furniture? Let us know more. Okay, now let's go and have a light. Oh, wait a minute. So fragrance, interesting. Commercial medium. I'm going to say 8 for our fragrance and cold draw. I'm not really getting too much on the fragrance and cold draw. A little bit of sweetness on the tongue. Let's see what it has to offer. Oh yeah, there it is. Definitely starting off with that minerality. A little bit of light brightness. Not very bright, just a little hint of the brightness. Just on those first 2 puffs. It's a very different cigar than I'm used to smoking. I know it's wrong. There we go. They're so noisy. I have a fan that has a big 4-inch filter on it up here. And I use that to capture the smaller dust particles from the wood. And I don't want to turn. I try not to turn on when I'm smoking a cigar because I don't want it to absorb the smoke from the cigar. Because why bother with that? Plus, it's also noisy. This is much more. And this is much more pleasant. Tony's here. What's going on, Tony? How are you, man? Good to see you. So definitely brighter notes. Brighter notes. Mineral. Like I said, on Saturday, I really enjoyed this one. So I'm hoping that we will enjoy this as much. I remember from Saturday, really great performance through most of the cigar. I think it kind of got a little bit choppy through here and then kind of came back towards the end. There's a little bit of woodsiness to it as well, in the flavor. So minerality, some woodsy, kind of hinting of. And when I say woodsy, I feel like I feel like it's hinting towards a cedar, but it's not really apparent cedar. It's just kind of woodsy note that's maybe a little bit of cedar, maybe not. But starting off really nice. Like I said, I normally smoke things like, let's say, the Roma Crafts. Like I did buy a box of the La Maestranza Castilla to Murcia, the one that we smoked on the show a few weeks ago. And I bought a box of those finally, and I was like, okay, now I can smoke again. But that's a heavier cigar. That's a more richer, robust cigar, where this is not like that. This is, body-wise, it's not very heavy. It's kind of a medium, light-bodied cigar. Again, mineral notes, lighter, brighter notes, but not very bright, just a little brightness. Oh. So how about you guys? Anything happen this week for you? Go anywhere, do anything, smoke anything interesting, eat any good food? I'm trying to think, what have I been doing this week? Always feel like I haven't done any, but I may have done, who knows? I may have scaled Everest, but I would be like, oh, I don't know what I did this week. What I'm trying to do is, I'm thinking about now that the weather's starting to get a little bit warmer, it's time to start cleaning the garage more, make more space, so I can do better work. At least that's what I'm telling myself. I feel like if I have more space, I can do better work. Really, I probably won't be able to do better work because I just don't have the skills. Like this chair, I'm butchering the chair. But it's all about learning, right? All about technique, learning the technique. I'm pleased that I've been able to connect with some more experienced woodworking people who I can approach and be like, hey, how do you do this correctly? Because I'm totally like getting kickback and things are flying across the room, hitting me. It's not very pleasant. Like this, I'm trying to figure out like with this table, this chair seat that I showed you. I'm trying to figure out how to, these are the legs, right? So if these are the legs, I want to join the legs into the seat and through the bottom. Now, one way to do that is to cut mortise and tenons. However, the problem is that I just realized this afternoon is that, well, I did not cut this long enough, right? So I want the seat height to be at 17 and a half inches. Well, this will just deliver that. Like I really don't have the ability to cut a tenon out of this and shove it into the seat. So what I have to do now is it really does have to be dominoed in. So I was talking to there's a guy doing a demo on domino. So by the way, if you're in Baltimore and you want to learn about the domino and you want to get to use the domino, which is a loose tenon joinery system, they're having a demo tomorrow at Woodcraft in Timonium here in Baltimore at 1 p.m., 3 p.m., and 5 p.m. So if you have the time, come down. I was talking to the guy that's instructing it today, and I was like, hey, man, how about this? How would you do this? I would like to learn how to properly reference this because I need to run it, right? So I need to, this is the seat button, right? What I need to do is I need to put it in here, something like this. And it has to be, like, let's say this is the angle. It has to be this angle to the thing, or like maybe like that. What is the right way to reference this on the fences of the domino in order to, I think I have an idea of how it should be done. Maybe lie it down here and draw reference lines and then use and clamp it down so that I'm dominoing it these ways. But I need to do probably two, right? One here, so that it locks it in correctly. But I'm not quite sure. So he's like, yeah, okay. I told him maybe he's like, maybe bring the work piece tomorrow. And I was like, all right, I'll bring the work pieces. George is with us. What's going on, man, George? Good evening, all. I'm sorry I'm late, but I had projects on the stove and in the oven. Of course. Already bring the EPC, and it's starting off really well as it did last time. Mom says I saw you dancing. I was out yesterday. That's what I did this week. I was out yesterday with Sue. Sue called me and she was like, hey, let's go meet up because I roasted some coffee for her last week. Sue is my old manager at Spro in Hamden. And we've kept in touch. She's really an excellent, great person. And she was like, hey, let's go get something to eat. All right. She wanted to take me to this place called the Royal Blue. And the Royal Blue is this bar downtown that does cocktails and bar, and really nice food. However, and Royal Blue is theoretically open all day long. However, yesterday they weren't open till 5, and we got there like at 3. So it's like, oh man, what are we gonna do now? So we went up to this Korean place, this pocha place, hung out there, drank some beers, ate some like fried foods, had a nice time, and then went over to the Royal Blue. And the Royal Blue actually has a back, so we got some martinis at the Royal Blue because she likes martinis. And we're in the back room. And the back room actually is like a dance floor. And if you look at my Instagram feed, you'll see it. And I was looking at that. I was like, there's nobody. We're the only 2 people in this whole like back room. And I was like, this is epic, man. This is where I should be dancing. And I was like, I'm gonna have some. So I shot this video there, and I thought it was kind of fun, kind of a dancing by myself, and no music. And the best thing is that there's no music. At least I thought that was the best part of it was that there was no music. So if you want to see something a bit ridiculous, you can check out my Instagram posts on that. I think I put it as an Instagram reel. So nice thing about this, not too heavy, kind of delicate and nuanced. And actually, I think I'm liking it better now than I did on Saturday. And probably because I'm in this environment, right? So I'm in this environment where it's only me smoking. There's no other cigar smoking happening. There's no other cigar smoke kind of influencing my nostrils. It's just this by itself. And I'm like, this is quite nice. George is saying reviving your no reviving of that. No revive. Maybe later. Maybe next year. Yeah, this is really nice. Like the draw is really good. The smoke production is really great. Like this is just an enjoyable cigar. Now I know, Mom, you didn't enjoy this when you said. Do you recall, Mom, what you did not like about this cigar? Because when we talk about deviating away from like the heavy or the mineral type of cigars, I never would have thought about it this way, but I really have been I was enjoying it Saturday. I'm enjoying it now. So George, I was telling everyone that I was trying to remember the details about that you were telling me, and told them, I thought to myself, I forgot. I was trying to remember them, and I was like, oh, I should have looked it up. Why didn't I look it up online? I looked it up basically, but I didn't really read about it. Do you have some information on like what is the like? It's all mostly Honduran tobacco, maybe a little bit of other tobaccos in the blend, in the filler, but what are the components? The major components? Did he reveal that? Mom says it did not have enough punch. Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. If you're like into punchy cigars, this is definitely not the way to go. This is a little more delicate. This is a little bit more. No, I don't even know if I would say it's very smooth, but it's definitely not that punchy body that if you like heavier cigars, it's definitely not that. George says I like the burn, but does it strike you that the ash is grayer tonight than it was on Saturday? Um, I don't know. I didn't honestly, to be honest with you, I was enjoying it on Saturday, so I wasn't really paying attention to the color of the ash. However, it is smoking very well. Like it's equally as good, perhaps even a little bit better than it was on Saturday. But I suspect that the my reaction saying that it was better now than on Saturday is that again, like I'm I smoked that one on a clean palate. I'm smoking this one on a clean palate, but I'm also smoking it in a cleaner environment. But alternatively, I got a little bit of sniffles, so that could be something as well. But I'm enjoying enough that I feel like I want to suck it down. But however, I can feel there's a little bit something in that last puff that if I wanted to pull harder on it, faster, more, it would not be rewarding. It would start to get a little bit too much of the brightness, maybe too much minerality on the palate. I feel like that. All right, let's have a taste with the coffee, the Kona. The Kona, definitely not a good coffee. Ooh, I imagine that in the world of Kona coffees, this is the lowest grade of Kona. However, it says Kona blend, and Japanese tend to be a little bit more forthright than perhaps other people's. But to be honest with you, outside of the state of Hawaii, now this is also sold within the state of Hawaii, so it could meet that. Now, for the longest time, um, if you sold coffee within the state of Hawaii and called it a Kona blend, it had to have 10% Kona, no less. However, the quality of what is designated Kona can be at the lowest grade. Like there are several grades of Kona: extra fancy, fancy, and then a couple more. And then finally, there is a grade that is so low that they will not allow you to call it Kona unless you use it in the state of Hawaii. This is not that lowest grade, but it definitely is one of the lower. You can just tell by the way it tastes. George says, as I mentioned last weekend, I haven't spoken with Ernie. Uh-oh, I can't see the smaller one, or Lizette about them, but I do know it's designed to present Honduras in contrast to other regions like Nicaragua and the DR. Part of a trio they released highlighting Sumatra and also Maduro, which I believe is a Mexican San Andreas. Okay, okay, very good, very good. So I guess I was extrapolating what you've told me into conjuring other details, like it's mostly a Honduran blend, with maybe some Dominican. But whatever it is, it's quite nice. I mean, maybe I can find it on the computer. EP Carrillo, Honduras. Oh yeah, he does have a webpage for it. You know who I should look up? I'm going to look up the guys from Half Wheel. They always do they do nice details typically, those guys. March 2024, they announced the release. And the first one of these series was the Sumatra that was released, and then the Maduro, and then finally, this is the last one of the trio, or the latest release. The blend focuses on Honduran tobacco using a Honduran Olancho San Agustin wrapper that undergoes a 2-year fermentation process atop a Honduran binder and fillers from Honduras and Nicaragua. Okay, there we go. The new line is offered in the same 3 vitolas as the first 2 Essence Series blends. So I guess it's called Essence Series. It also shares the same 3 price points as the other 2 blends. Oh, that's good. So I guess that's good. So in this particular one, they have 3 cigars. They have 3 cigars, three vitolas, Robusto, Toro, and Gordo, in a 5x50, 6x52, and 6x60. And while most of the while he typically produces the cigars at Casa Carrillo in Santiago, Dominican Republic, evidently this is one of the handful of cigars that are not produced in the DR. It comes from Plasencia's Tabacos de Oriente factory in Danlí, Honduras. So I guess Plasencia has a factory in Danlí, and this is made there. Huh. I guess everybody has to do that. Like Skip Martin goes to Dominican and have cigars made there, and now Ernesto goes to Honduras and has cigars made there. I guess everybody does it. I guess there are 3 more blends that are coming out. There is EP Carrillo, Connecticut, and then a Cameroon, and then a Nicaragua that will be forthcoming at some point in time. Then there was actually, supposedly it was announced at the last year's PCA convention, which I think, George, is coming up next month. Next month. So I imagine that it's coming soon. So MSRP on these cigars is $10.75. So not a terrible, you know, not a terrible price point. Rusty's with us. What's going on? Long day at school, ending with hearing some seniors in their choir concert. Oh, nice. No cigar tonight, but a hefty pour of the Woodford Reserve Double Oaked. Excellent, excellent. Enjoy it. Hope you enjoy it. George says, by taste, as we burned them, I felt like it was a Yamastron wrapper, and perhaps some DR filler, but I believe it would not include Nicaragua. That Olancho is a project that was started by UST back in the day. UST, what is UST? And it has unique flavors, but sometimes it challenges the blend. Oh, interesting. Of course, Ernesto makes it well. And he did. And then it's mid-April for the PCA. Ooh, mid-April. I think mid-April is in New Orleans is better than mid-July in New Orleans. The last time PCA was in New Orleans was 2016, and it was blazing. It was blazing there. But I gotta say, if you go to what I like the most about going to a convention in New Orleans is the food at the convention center. Now, if you're at the convention center, and the last time I was there was for what was it called back then? It wasn't called the RTDA. It was called the PCA, right? Premium Cigar Association. And if you're on the show floor and you go to the eateries on the show floor, they're the same rubbish pretzels and whatever crap they sell at every convention center around the United States. It's just ridiculously horrible. However, if you go outside the convention hall into the hallways, there are these little food courts that are interspersed between the halls. And if you go into those food courts, I think that's where all the local people go, because you can take your meal tickets and use them there. And there are these, well, at least when I went, there were these elderly Black women, and they were making things like gumbo and etouffee, and man, it was so good. I was like, oh, this is the best convention food I've ever had in my life. I look forward to returning to the New Orleans Convention Center for a show. George says it was IPCPR back then. Now it's PC. Oh, now it's PCA. Okay, okay. George says U.S. tobacco long since gone, but their heirloom and hybrid seed projects. And U.S. tobacco. Okay, gotcha. Okay. Which is very nice. This is a very nice car, and we're going at a pretty fast pace. But again, we are at the 40-minute mark, so we're actually not. Maybe we're not too fast. Yesterday was kind of an exciting day in my world. Yesterday was the day that Festool released a bunch of new gear, and we're like, "Ooh, what's happening? What are they releasing?" I mean, nothing that I'm going to buy, but I was like, "Ooh, fascinating." Rick, for Festool, it's their 100th anniversary, right? So they started in 1925. So they have these special releases of something, and we don't know what they are. No, why they don't tell you, it doesn't make any sense to me. But they finally released a new 100th anniversary domino. But the only difference between the domino that you buy, that you have already, and the domino that they give you now, or for this special release, is that they put it in a blue box. The sustainer is blue. It says 100th anniversary. It's like, some people are like, why don't you sell yours and buy that? I said, because people want to buy it they want to buy it, but they want me to take a loss on it, and I'm not going to spend that kind of money. I'm not going to take a loss on just to get a box. Like if it had the logo on the tool, maybe. One thing about this cigar, I think that helps is if you really take your time. And for me, that's a little bit, that requires deliberate action to take my time with it, because I always like to pull on them. George says, when they have these major new releases, do they give Tool Fest? They don't give anything. They don't give anything to my show. They give nothing. Nothing. I actually reached out to a company not too long ago, and I was like, it was a company called Vivor, the Chinese company, because they have this tool that's very similar to one of the Fest tools. And I was like, would you be interested in sending me one of those so I can compare them to the Fest tool one? And they were like, your channel is way too small for us to even consider doing any kind of deals with you. And I was like, all right, fine. Then I will do it without you. So now it's kind of transitioning. So I gotta say, let's say our first. I'm gonna say very good plus for the flavor, lighter on the body, but very good plus for the quality of the flavor. So let's say 17.25. Okay, now why I really liked the first one, the first third. Now that we're transitioning to the second third, it feels like it's kind of like we had this kind of nice, beautiful build up, and now maybe there's this like interlude. It's just kind of like, I feel like the last puff is kind of like slowing down. The movement is slowing. Right? And I'm not sitting no coffee. No. Yeah, like earlier was mineral, a little bit of brightness, really interesting. Now I think it's kind of grooving down, or maybe my palate is becoming a little bit used to the flavor. Tony says, I lied having zero wild cherry Pepsi and cream Pepsi, not the normal. Oh, did you say, did I miss your message? Or you said what you're smoking and drinking? So what are you smoking then? I don't see a message here from you for that. But George says, or maybe something will emerge during the middle third. Maybe we're gonna find out. We're gonna find out. But we're also getting close to burning the band, so we're gonna take the band off soon. Like this Robusto's kind of short, so it's like, oh, we're gonna run out of cigar soon. But it's at a nice point. Like it's not unenjoyable, but it's also not like spectacular. It's just kind of grooving. It's kind of grooving. Just kind of found a groove and it's just kind of rolling right there. George wants to know, Tony, does that new flavor actually have creamy qualities? Yeah, let us know. Let us know. Kind of surprised you changed. Now, of course, I was saying about the band, but the band is pretty big on this thing. Like it's almost absurdly big. Oh yeah, George even say that brand is big, so it looks like it makes the cigar look shorter. Yeah, you're right. I think I like the more understated bands. You know, as a tasteful approach. You know. Tony says no, just flavored like a cream soda. Okay, gotcha. I think I might have liked that better than this. George says you have plenty of cigar left once you go naked. Oh yeah, well, I hope so. But yeah, we only have we have just over an hour left, so I don't know. Usually I'm the one that's saying that we're gonna make it, and Shem is the one that's saying you're not gonna make it. But today, I don't know. But but we're really getting close to the band, so I'm gonna remove the band now because I don't like burning bands. That really bothers me for some reason. All right, longer. George says that Tony, big companies don't typically do cream qualities very well. Oh my. I don't really know how to interpret that. Now that last puff, starting to get a little bit more brightness developing. Tony says that he agrees, and it's a nice change of pace. That's always nice to have a change of pace. But me, I just stay with, when I want to change of pace, I go to Coke Zero. I usually am Diet Coke, and then once in a while, I'll go to Coke Zero, and then go back to Diet Coke. George says that he was talking about sodas, and one must always ask because one can never know. One can never know. It's funny because like I was there's this guy that I follow like on YouTube, and he works for Festool, so he represents Festool, and he does a lot of like tutorials about how to use the tools. And I found that he's on a podcast of his own, separate than Festool. And it's funny because like I only really know him as the persona for Festool, as whoever he is on representing Festool. And so to hear him talk and like, you know, and he really is talking just like we would talk in real life, like just regular guys hanging out with all kinds of innuendo, peppering the language. And it's just like, huh. It's like, oh yeah, he's just a regular guy like everybody else because in this, and it's interesting. And I get that because, you know, like if I'm out there, you know, talking as the representative Spro, I'm not like, I am going to tone it. I'm going to clean it up a little bit. Devin says, I bet I bet Bailey's works. Oh, Bailey's. Oh, yeah, sorry. I'm trying to think. What is this? What Bailey's? Bailey's. I gotcha. Tony says, smoking the Pravada cigars, LCA release La Serena Super C Monkey. Oh, and how it, I would think that with a name like the Super C Monkey, like, going back to the sea monkeys of when we were children, it just makes me think, does that cigar have salty qualities? You know how sometimes when you drink you smoke some of those like Candela wrap cigars, they kind of have a saltiness to them. Kind of makes me wonder, will that have a saltiness? George says that Devin, but Bailey's has alcohol to suspend the creamy properties. Ooh. You always want to suspend your creaminess. It's kind of important. Oh, okay, so I did cop to buying one thing yesterday at the new releases. I'll show you what I got. I got this. It's very small. It's not very. They had these lights. I like lights. So this light is a work light and it has three modes. You can click. Oh, there it is. Light, medium, bright, and then back to medium, or to light, and then medium, then bright, then medium, light, medium, bright. And then you hold it down, and then it'll hang. It's kind of neat. I was like, oh, I could use that, like, as a raking light to see, like, the surfaces. But it's pretty bright, though, if you put it in your face. So that was kind of cool. That was, like, the only thing that I bought. So I guess I don't really need anything, so it's like, George says, all I'm saying is that it's easier to make cream liqueurs than to give creamy qualities to a mass-produced soda. Oh, all right, all right. That's all we're taking it as. Don't worry, we're not taking it anything else. We promise. Trying to keep it clean here. This is is it a family channel? I don't think so. We are smoking cigars, so children will not be allowed to watch these videos. So right now I'm feeling a little bit of faltering, right? I feel like it's faltering a little bit. Like maybe there's a little bit of a tunnel happening here. So it's getting a little bit of bitterness developing, a little bit heftier. Devin says that cigars and coffee, we do it for the kids. That's really what it's about. So whatever that is doing, I don't think it's not doing it any favors. Hopefully that will be just a momentary lapse. But it's interesting though, like in the middle of this cigar, how perfectly round that bore is. Almost like a berry borer was boring through it. Or maybe beetle. Like if you have a beetle infestation in your cigar and you smoke it, you're actually smoking the burning beetles, right? Now you can see, and now we can kind of see the red beyond the hole. So I think we can see the end of the hole. George says, slow it down for a minute. Give it some time. All right, we'll slow down. We'll put it down for a moment and chill. Have a taste of our coffee. Nice. See, I want to pick it up again. I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait. George says you're usually only smoking the husk the beetle left behind. Typically, they hatch and eat their way out of the tobacco. Oh, okay, okay, gotcha, gotcha. One more beat, let it cool. We're letting it cool. We're letting it cool because we're cool here. We're cool. We're cool. Feel like I don't have anything to do at the moment. Feel uncomfortable, unsafe. All right, time to go back to it. I think we're good. The cherry has died down. A little bit better. George says because you don't have decent coffee. Yeah, we don't have decent coffee. This coffee is not very pleasant. Don't buy it. Don't buy it. UCC Kona, don't buy that. Don't buy that. It is not. It is not a pleasant experience. And I guess we got to do this every once in a while to remind me why we have to brew our own coffee here. But overall, so far, been very nice. Very nice. The first third was really great. Second third has been, okay, pretty good, pretty good. Kind of like I said, it's been kind of grooving down, kind of just chilling. Devin says the Kona is no dark roasted geisha. Yeah, it is definitely not a dark roasted geisha. For those of you who may not be familiar with this, what Devin is referring to, there's a coffee out there called the geisha. It came out, really started coming out in 2005. And I've tasted it many times since 2005 and actually had the original lot of coffee that really shook the coffee market when it came out in 2005. This coffee went on auction and was sold at auction to my mentor for a stunning, staggering amount of money, which was $21.75, which at the time was astronomical, like just nuts that anyone paid that much for a coffee. But it was so different from Panama, from the Esmeralda estate. And it had very floral notes, very delicate notes, very tea-like notes, very different than any coffee that had come out until that time. Since that time, geisha has become on its own, become very popular. People try to grow it everywhere, and some of it fetches incredible amounts of money. Another friend of mine from Japan bought one of the most highest auctions, $2,500 per pound. He spent $115,000 on this lot of coffee. I was like, dude, you're nuts, man. But they got the money. They have the people that are willing to spend $300, $400, $500 a pound on their roasted coffee. So it's a good, or actually no, it's $300, $400, $500. I think it's like $300, $400, $500 for like maybe 100 grams. Not a pound. A pound to be that way they'd be losing money in that respect. So, like I said, Sue was asking me to make some coffee for her for this coffee tasting she was doing last weekend. And she just asked me, hey, could you make me 3 coffees and 3 different roast profiles with 3 different types of coffee? So a washed, a honey, and a natural. I was like, sure, no problem. So as I'm looking through our inventory of green, well, there was a natural from Ethiopia, made that as a light roast. There was a geisha from Nicaragua that was honey processed from the La Bastilla estates. And so did that as a medium roast. And there was another one, a washed geisha from La Bastilla as well in Nicaragua. So I thought, well, you know what? Everybody roasts these coffees super light and delicate, and they're all like, oh, it's so nice coffee, blah, 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 blah. And I thought, well, you know what? Why don't we roast the hell out of it and make it into a dark roast? And so that's what we did. We did it, and it actually turned out very nicely. I haven't tasted it myself, so Sue was telling me she did the tasting on Saturday, and all of her guests really enjoyed it. Really interesting way to go. She was like, "You didn't have to use that." I said, "Well, yeah, but I thought, well, we had it, so let's do it. Why hold back?" Like, my belief is always that as long as you have good quality ingredients, even if you do a darker roast, it will show through. And that's been my experience using darker roast coffees over the years, and I figured, well, let's do this geisha as a dark and see what kind of thing it's going to happen. So I'm going to finally taste it. I have a little bit left over, so I'm going to taste it like maybe next week. We're going to do it next week and let it really degas and like come into its own before we do that, right? George says you should launch a pre-show feature that follows you as you brew whatever coffee is on deck for the pairing. You mean for this show or for? And he sold 15. You know, I don't know how he sold the coffee back, the $2,500 coffee. I don't know how he sold it, but there is a market. Like one of my good friends in Hawaii, he owns a company called Paradise Roasters, and he's got a cadre of customers that are like, we want you to buy the best quality coffee out there, and we don't care how much it costs. And he's selling to them like 100 grams for like $300 and more. And these guys are willing to pay whatever it takes to get it. So I don't think I don't think my clients are quite to that level. I wouldn't mind finding them, but if any of you are interested in that kind of level of coffee, let me know. We can always go find that stuff. George says, "Oh, and the coffee pundits were open revolt coming for you." Well, I haven't heard anyone hating on me yet. Maybe soon. I'm actually hoping they will, and I hope they will call the CNN and complain, and then maybe CNN will come and like do an interview and be like, "Why would you do something so ridiculous as roasting geisha dark?" Because it's America, and I'm American, and I want to exercise my freedoms. And baby, it costs like $500 because freedom isn't free. I don't know what that means really, but sounds good. Sounds good to me. Oh, my heater's starting to flutter. Maybe it's going to start to run out of gas. This since it hasn't been so cold, my tank has lasted me quite a long time now. Because I haven't been running it, of course, so it's very nice. Yeah, so I would say that this in its second third, after the second third started off, it started just kind of like, this lower this kind of gliding tone and maybe a little bit of harshness with the whole. Now it's kind of getting more interesting again as we move towards the last third. We're not in, I would say I think the last third I would say is right about here. So we're getting there. We're getting there. But as far as the coffee purists and open vote, I mean, nobody's really said anything to me, which is just testimony that nobody watches my. Very few people watch the live stream. Like I think if I had the audience of some of the bigger YouTubers out there that do coffee, and I said I was doing a dark roasted geisha, I think I would get a lot of hate then, a lot of hate, people hating on me. But I haven't received too much hate. I don't think I've received any hate on it. I'm a little bit disappointed. So if you have friends out there that want to throw hate my way, tell them to come to the comments of the videos and like hate on them. I'd be all right with that. Because there's no such thing as bad publicity. Oh yeah, I definitely can hear the fluttering going on now. I hear this weekend though we're going to get up to 80 degrees in weather. George says it's a live look in at the garage. to slow down because it's starting to get a little bit warm. But the fact that I'm smoking it a little bit heavier, faster, it just kind of shows that it really is quite enjoyable, even though we're in this section of it, right? I guess if we run out of gas, I'm going to have to refill it. And George says we can place bets on what time you finish your cigar. All right, so we've got. Oh yeah, we're gonna. I don't think we're gonna. Even I, at this moment, don't think we're gonna make it. Like it's only at hour 6 into the show, and yeah, I think we're gonna run out of gas. What I would like to do is buy chainsaw pants this week. I'm still trying to understand. Like they have chainsaw chaps, right? And I don't really understand like the waist sizes, right? Like, well, have I reached a point in my waist size that the chaps will fit, or do I have to go find fitted chainsaw pants? Because the chaps are relatively not too expensive, but the pants are kind of expensive. And you feel like, oh, you don't want to spend too much. But the thing is that, well, chainsaw pants have these fibers in them, right? So in case the chainsaw slips off the log and cuts into your leg, the fibers come apart and seize the chain so it doesn't slice through your arteries, which is an important idea, right? Like that's an important thing, but I don't know why, but I keep thinking, oh, $80 for chaps is kind of expensive. $175 and up for pants is pricey. Yeah, but it won't cut your leg off. I don't know why I'm even talking about. I don't even know why I'm trying to figure this out. George says you can get another 20 minutes, which ends first, the tank or your smoke. Oh, guaranteed the tank is going to end. Like any moment now. I'm actually surprised it hasn't finished. George says cigar completed by 9:37. All right. We shall see. We shall see. George says that George Juan, you are an unreliable predictor. Last week you were. I think I would be honestly, even myself, I would be, if we made it to 9:37, I would be surprised. So I've got everything else as far as like safety gear. I've got the helmet, I've got the face shield, I've got the gloves. I did buy the cheaper gloves at Harbor Freight instead of the nice Husqvarna gloves. The Husqvarnas were like $32. The Harbor Freight ones were like 18. So I was like, okay, 18 works. Probably should have got the Husqvarna. We're actually trying to figure out how we found this. There are these like white oak logs, like this trunk of a tree, this tree that they felled, and like it's just there. We should take it and take it to our sawmill guy. But I mean, these tree trunks are probably like 2,000 pounds, so it's like we can't move it by ourselves. So I think my friend Matt is talking to a tree service because I'm talking to our sawyer about it. So the idea is to like move the tree, have these guys come in, bring a truck, bring like a skid loader or whatever equipment they use and lift the trunk onto the truck, truck it over to our sawmill guy, and have him do the sawing. And then we'd have white oak for days. White oak for days. So if you need white oak, let me know. Devin says his bed is 927. All right, I like that. Can we create a new blend for Spro? The chainsaw geisha. We certainly can. We certainly can. Oh yeah, this thing is about to die. I don't know if you can hear the fluttering, but it's definitely fluttering hard. George says that's why I used to suck. That's why I suck at Preakness on a yearly basis, but I don't stop trying. Oh, there it is, dead. Now we're back to silence. So I would say we're past the second third. Now, we did have some down performance of it, gliding performance, and then a little bit of roughness. So I'm going to say flavor-wise, 8. Body, I'm going to say was relatively the same, so still 8.5. Okay. Several years ago, before the pandemic, one of my friends had his birthday party, and his wife decided let's do the party at Laurel Raceway. And I never really been to a horse racing thing, so we went. We're betting, and actually, I won. I was able to choose the right horse, not like the trifecta or anything like that, just the win. And I was like, oh, all right. I think I won like $15 or something like that. I was like, all right, I can buy a couple cigars. But that was actually fun. I had a fun time hanging out at the racetrack. And actually, it's interesting if you like the Preakness, like if you go the morning before the Preakness begins, like the couple days before Preakness actually happens that week, they actually give free tours at like 8 in the morning. You can go take the free tours, or you can just go there and like you park in front of the grandstand. Like there's no like nobody checking your parking. You just park there because there's space open, and then you can just wander through the whole facility, and they've got all these things happening. It's really kind of fun. I did that a couple of years ago, and I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. Then you see some of the grandstands on the left side, and they're like from the 1920s, so they're like condemned, or they don't use the seats in them because it's pretty old. You're like, wow, that is what it looked. It looked like it's straight out of the 1920s. You're like, wow, that is pretty old. George says that actually the Preakness is one of the most difficult of the Triple Crown races to handicap, except when the field is down to 5 or 6 points. Oh, I didn't know that. I don't really know much about horse racing. When I was growing up in Pikesville, my next door neighbor, his uncle was really into horse racing. Like he owned like, shares in horses or something. Like he would always have pictures of horses that he would give us because it's like, this is my horse. I was like, oh, this is cool. But I still never understood anything about it. I was like, okay, cool, cool. All right, I'm gonna go replace this thing here. I'll be right back. Let me grab another tank. I know that George is out there hanging out, but I'm not that tough. This way I can also make my cigars last longer. All right, almost there. All right. There we go. George says, on Friday, you can sneak in from the backside and bet on both the Black-Eyed Susan and the Preakness. Oh, I didn't know that. Ponies, not points. Okay, okay. I don't know what that means, but. And then George says, if the new shop is open by then, we should have a live show on Preakness Saturday, cigars, crab cakes, and drinks, but not those horrible black-eye cocktails. I'll just make it. Juleps works for me. Julep works for me. Yeah, we could do that. It may. I mean, I'm actually part of the reason I was hanging out with Sue was that I wanted to talk about. So we're gonna do more like education kind of stuff at the new shop, right? Because honestly, I don't really know if I want to do more retail. Retail is such a commitment. Like I did retail for like 22 years, and I was like, 22 years is a long time to do retail. Ooh, now that I was away for it for a while, it feels nice flavor. But the juleps work. The juleps work. So I'm working on the space now. I got some stuff I need to do. I'm gonna try to kick a lot of it out this coming week, so we can start doing at least some educational classes in the space. All right, we're pretty darn close now. Right now, my show timer says 1:18, so it must be 9:18. Is that right? Man, I don't know if we're gonna make it even to 9:27. That last puff had a little bit of slight bitterness, but let's see what happens. Let's maybe take a little moment to let it chill out. Definitely now it's a little bit heavier. Wait, and it's not that that's a bad thing. It's a nice thing, but it is heavier than it has been. Probably getting to the end, so it's concentrating more. Looks like for next week, the plan is to have next week's episode, but I'm not sure if it will actually happen, only because looks like I have to go back to Boston, maybe on Monday, because now we're actually gonna bring my aunt from Boston down to Baltimore. So I have to plan, I have to figure that out. So we've been talking to the rehab centers, and we'll see. like, if we end up transporting her back here, like on Thursday, then, while I would normally do the show from the road wherever we are, you can't really take your elderly aunt and like smoke cigars in the van on the way back. Probably people would be very upset with me for doing that. And she'd probably be bitching the whole time. Bitch, 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 bitch. Like, oh, no, we can't have that. Can't have that. So it won't be something that I won't know. It'll be something that I won't know that whether or not it will go through until until maybe even the last day. But I'll try to. I will definitely post to the channel's community page to let you know whatever happens in another direction. Or presume that we'll do it. But if we don't, then I'll let you know. I will put the word out there. So what has been happening? Anything interesting going on in the world? I have been not really paying attention to the news or anything. I was trying to catch up on some of the Doctor Who that I've been missing out, but I haven't. I tried watching one episode and I kind of watched halfway, and then I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go watch YouTube. But so far, not bad. Not bad. A little bit heavier now, but not too heavy and not bitter or anything like that. So let's see here. What is going on in the world? Anything interesting? Oh yeah, there's that signal chat thing. That's quite an interesting. It's like I think if I was telling my friend, if ever I become like in a position where I can become, I don't know, a big government official, I think I want to do all of my communications on WhatsApp. I like WhatsApp. Just be like, hey. Oh, actually, it looks like King Charles has been briefly hospitalized amidst his cancer treatment. Can you imagine poor King Charles? Like he waited 70 years or so to become the king, and now he's not going to last very long. Like he's going to have to let his son be the king. I wonder what his son will be like as king. I think people still like it. What's his name? What's the name of his son again? William. William. Hmm. San Francisco Gate reports that In-N-Out got wise. Let's see what the headline says. In-N-Out got wise to an in-the-know menu hack, and now it's going away. Why would you do that? Oh, so evidently they have slashed a menu price hack that they used to replicate a viral serum. Oh, so they would replicate a viral secret menu item and get it for a fraction of the cost. So if you ordered a single meat patty and a single slice of cheese, I guess you used to get like a cheaper burger, and so now they're going to eliminate that. Oh, I guess if you ordered a single and then you added an extra patty and a cheese, so you'd order a single, but you would add a patty and add a slice of cheese, so you'd actually get a double for less than the cost of a double. And if you're not familiar with in and out parlance, a single means, of course, one patty and one slice of American cheese. Double means that you get two patties and two slices of cheese, which, the burgers, if you've never had them in and out, are fairly good. It's the fries that are wildly disappointing. And it takes people a long time to come to terms with that, I think, because there's so much hype about In-N-Out being awesome and amazing. But if you really taste the fries, it's not very good. It's like they take the fries, they slice them, they cook them fresh, which is a really nice thing, but they cook them once, and that is like the worst way to make French fries. So you get this kind of like not so nice textured fry. It's kind of hard. It's not so nice. It's like, it's kind of limp. You're like, why am I having limp fries? I want crisp fries. I want crisp fries that have a fluffy interior. And the only way to achieve that is by proper temperature control and double frying. Or at least you're going to parboil it, cool it down, then deep fry, and then you got something great. Or you cook it in oil at like 275, and then you do your final, you let it cool down again, and then you do your final fry at 375, and it's brilliant. George asked, the king and the pope are in the hospital? I think the king is out. I think the king was there just briefly. And the Pope is not looking too well. I saw a photo of the Pope not too long ago, this past weekend. I was like, oh, the Pope is looking pretty rough. I'm sure there's a lot of cardinals that are very pleased with that. I think there's a number of people within the Catholic Church that are quite unhappy with this Pope. A little bit too, I think people think he's a little bit too liberal. Too much Christ, too much love, too much acceptance. It's like, no, Father. Holy Father, you should not welcome all the people to your table. Only the right people should come to your table. And the Holy Father was like, well, anyone can come to my table. Like, no, we can't have that. Also, in other news, if you remember back in 1995, the Tejano music singer Selena was killed by her fan club manager. If you happen to watch the movie, Selena, you'd probably know this. Evidently, Lupe Ontiveros played Yolanda Salazar. And Yolanda Salazar is her name. And Lupe Ontiveros played her in the movie with Jennifer Lopez. And evidently, Yolanda's parole has come up, and they have denied her parole after 20-some years to 30 years, which I'm sure a lot of the fan base is very happy with that. They're like, no, Yolanda should never see the light of day. Devin says, trying to make a fry when McDonald's exists is... You know what? I don't know if you've ever done this, and I've done this many times over the year. Because when I was young, my uncle and cousin worked at McDonald's, and they lived with us at the time, and so they would come home with like tons of McDonald's. Like we had McDonald's. There was a couple years where for breakfast I would mostly have leftover McDonald's chicken McNuggets and French fries, and you can actually take the fries and refry them the next day. And they're quite tasty. Now I don't. Now this is back in the late '70s, maybe early 1980s. So the way they make French fries in the early '80s is very different than the way they make French fries today. Back then, they were using beef tallow, and we're pretty much done now. 21.29. Oh, Devin, you're very good. I can't hold that anymore. But now I think there's a lot more preservatives or whatever, and they don't use the tallow, so it's not as good. Okay, so I'm going to say we're still at 8 on performance for flavor, 8.5 for body. That's been very consistent. Burn and draw, I'm going to say it is a 9. It's been very good for burn and draw. Very, very high marks there. Consistency, I'm going to say 8. So we've got let me just work up the calculations. Now, overall, Overall, I'm going to say 825. Which gives us a total of 83.25 points. So not a bad run. Not a bad run. George says, In-N-Out is about to sink in Best Burger polls because they obviously don't care about their most loyal customers. Well, it's kind of like Southwest Airlines, right? George Stem says the grease being changed regularly is important. If not, dirty grease equals bad. I agreed 100%. And you can always tell when the oil is too old because it bubbles. If you have oil that bubbles a lot, it's time to change the oil. The oil is dead at that point. Dead. George Hartman says the genius move by McDonald's was to convincing Gerber to put French fry grease into baby food. Did they really do that? Brian wants to know if Steve's out there. Steve, are you out there? Let us know if you're out there. All right, so we finished our cigar with half an hour to go, and but I have prepared for this today. As I was looking at tonight's cigar, I was like, that looks kind of short. In case I run out, I should have something else to go with it. This is a cigar that Bryant sent to me. You may know him as Mum. This is I can no longer read. It's really bad. Like, I'm really getting to the point where I can't really read a lot of things. So I have to put the glasses on. That's better. This is The Last Call by AJ Fernandez. As it says here, premium aged tobacco. Last Call Maduro. This is what's called the Chiquitas. It's a 3.5 by 60 cigar. And I figured it would be a nice thing to have to use today for in case we ran out of our cigar. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go into this. We're not going to score it or anything. We're just going to enjoy it as we would do in normal. And I can't. These are just reading glasses. So, like, I can read, but I can't look at the screen because then it becomes all like. So, what is it? It's 3.5 by what? 3.5 by 60. 60. That's a 60. That can't be a 60 ring gauge. Oh, 50. 3.5 by 50. Yeah, 3.5 by 50. And I was like, that looks like a really thin 60. Devin says my cigar's right on the same size. Let's see if it looks faster. Okay, let me get into it. Right now. Shaggy foot, nice cap, good color. Look at that, nice Maduro coloration. Ooh, a little bit of sweetness, like sweet, a little light manure, but sweet overall, I think. The cold draw also translates with the sweetness. That's very pleasant. And what is going on with this AJ Fernandez guy? Like, he seems to be everywhere. He's like everywhere, everything all at once, right? He's everywhere making cigars. And evidently, they're all quite nice cigars. Like, how is a person able to do that? Like, do you just have like unlimited tobacco or something? Or like, has he made a pact with the devil? Oh, kind of like cocoa. That first like puff was kind of nice. Devin says the AJ stuff for private is still is pretty good. I gotta say, this is actually quite nice. George says no. Let's see who smokes slower. We're not going to do the world champion of cigars here. That's craziness. Oh, he does that. George says, Devin says he likes it. You're on. Okay, let's go slow. George says that AJ is the new. Wow, there's a really nice flavor in this puff. That last puff, like, ooh, that was nice. AJ is the new Don Pepin. The only English word he has yet to learn is no. Yeah, I guess everybody that goes to AJ, can you make a cigar? Yes. Can you make a cigar? Yes. Can you make a cigar? See. because he's making for everybody. It seems like it feels like everywhere I turn, AJ, this brand by AJ Fernandez, this brand by AJ Fernandez. Like, wow, dude, this AJ guy is quite busy. George says that he's moved on to the Aladino Cazadoras. I think that's fine. I think your spelling looks fine. Paired with a vodka martini, nice. That's still technically Spanish. Yeah, Cazadoras, Cazadores. It's fine. It's fine. That's fine. You just got one letter off. Not a big deal. Not a big deal. So that first couple puffs actually quite enjoyable. And George wants to know, what vodka are you drinking? And are you just drinking it straight? So Sue's really into at this place, Royal Blue, Blue Royal, whatever it's called. She's like, I love the dirty martinis. And I was like, what? Dirty martinis? I'm not really a big dirty martini fan. But I was drinking dirty martinis last night. And I was like, and the one thing about the dirty martini, like this one's a nice, pungent, like salty or dirty olive, like it's like really, it's one of those martinis that are like dry and clean and like, it's one of those where you're like, it's not she's like, I'm all about chugging it. I'm like, oh, I can't chug this. Like, this is not a chugging kind of martini. Mango martini is chugging for me, right? But this one is like, this is like, because it's so like salty and pungent, these like little sips. So quite, actually, I enjoyed it. And I wasn't sure if I would enjoy it, even though I do like olives. But I was like, oh, okay, good. So we drank some beers at the Korean place, and then had a couple martinis. And I was like, I probably should stop, because if I don't stop, I'm going to not be able to drive home. George says Royal Blue. Actually, this, we're in America, it's Baltimore. We're not too fancy here in Baltimore, so it's Royal Blue, not the Royal Bleu. And yeah, that's very fancy. Oh, this has got nice aromas there. George says, dirty martinis, is it the 90s? I think it is. George's Gem is having the Tito's, and it's a dirty martini. Oh, also a dirty martini. Nice. Do you have a preference for your olives that you're going to be using? So this place, they put a little bit of olives with the pimientos in it, right? So like little 3 tiny olives, kind of nice. Me personally, if I'm eating olives, man, I love the Castelveltrano olives. I will just eat those. And I prefer them with the pit. Like I remember one time I was at Costco, and they had the jar of the Castelveltrano. I was like, "Ooh, look at that jar of Castelveltrano! It's a big jar." Like I was, "Oh my gosh, that looks like the most awesome like way to have Castelveltrano." So I bought a whole bottle. I bought the whole jar, and I was like eating it. And they're pitted, so there's no pits in it, right? So it's nice. It's easier to eat. But the problem is, it just didn't have the flavor. Like it didn't have, like where I get the olives, I get it from this retailer, and they have the pits in it, and they're meaty and like, resist the meat is really like, it's buttery texture. Oh man, it's so good. Like I will sit there and just pound on them, and just like piles of pits are stacking up, and it's like, oh my gosh, this is the best. But it was a chore to eat the ones from Costco. Like I was like, this is not very good. I don't know if it's because they took the pits out or the way they seasoned it or whatever. There's another place that I buy olive oil from, and they have some Castelveltranos there. They're a Greek company, right? They're Greek, bunch of Greeks. Really great olive oil. They have it on their family farm in Greece, and so they import it to the United States. And really lovely olive oil. But their Castelveltranos, they put like dill on it or something. And I'm like, oh, no, man. I just want the straight up Spanish people. Just give me the Spanish one, and I'm very, very happy. I don't want any like extraneous flavoring on it. That's at least my thing, right? Devin says you got to make a martini with a homemade sauerkraut brine. Oh, good Lord, man. Now you got to make sauerkraut for like months on end and then make your martini. It's, not that I'm against that or anything. I mean, I make a lot of stuff at home, and I do enjoy making my own ingredients. Like I've been eating this jar of strawberry jam that I made back in 2022. I'm almost finished it, and I didn't make any in 2023 because I just missed. I was in Japan, and by the time I came home from Japan in late June, strawberry season was gone, and I was like, oh man, I'm really kind of hosed. I had to wait another year, but I didn't. I don't eat the jam that much, so I'm not really burning through it. When I had the shop, we burned through a lot of it, but like at home, I'm not really eating. I'm not. It's not good for me to eat a lot of strawberry jam. So I finally made a whole other batch. I got a whole field case last summer. Went to my local strawberry guy. I was like, hey man, I need a whole field case, please. It was kind of expensive. I think it was like $65. I was like, man, what happened to like $30 for the field case? Like it used to be really cheap. Now it's not. Now it's like kind of pricey. But I made a whole batch. Haven't even gotten to them. So at least this year, I can just go to I just go to the farmer and just buy like strawberries to eat, and I don't have to worry about making jam this year. George says, I used the blue cheese olives from the olive bar. Well, Sue was telling me something about that. She went to a place where they made something like those olives. Blue cheese, like a dirty blue cheese martini. So it had like the chunky blue cheese in the liquid. And I was like, she was like, it was kind of weird and kind of like off-putting, but it was actually not too bad. And I was like, She was like, it was good to try once. I was like, that's good. That's good. She was also asking me, she was like, so do they have, I guess some of her friends asked her if she was going to take a certification course in being a barista. And I was like, she's like, yeah, are there certification? I said, yeah, there's certification courses. You can go to the Specialty Coffee Association and get a certification course. But I was like, honestly, you don't need it. Like, you're a better barista than any of the people that may go through those courses. I was like, you've actually been through she was like, I know, I've been through the hardest. I was like, you've been through the hardest training possible. I said to her, if you were to actually go to those classes and pay for them, which I think are pretty expensive. I told her you'd probably go to those classes and you'd be sitting there and you'd be looking at everybody around you and then what they're doing, what they're teaching, and you'd be like, what is this nonsense? Like, this is like basic. It's like you're way advanced for those things. George says that. Devin says there are variations of Funkin' blue cheese. I prefer them. Oh, no doubt, no doubt. Now, I don't know if you know this, but there are even funkinesses in coffees, right? So many years ago, when I first started getting into what people know now as anaerobic fermentation, anaerobic fermentation. So anaerobic fermentation is where you take, the original way we used to do it was you would take the coffee, pulp it, meaning that you take the seeds out of the cherry, and then you would wrap them in basically rubber bladders. So you would lower the oxygen content of the fermentation. And you would actually get a malolactic fermentation out of it. So you're changing the malic acid acids into lactic acids. And so depending on how far you took that fermentation process, you could go from light and milky sweet to like hardcore, like pungent blue cheese, like pungent, like super pungent. And I remember one of the tests we did that I tasted was like on the extreme. Like it was like the funkiest blue cheese out there. And I was like, oh, this is some funky stuff, man, funky stuff. And so this is like over 10 years ago. And we ended up going with the lighter, sweet, milky type of fermentation because that was the basis of our cold brew since that time. But yeah, there's definitely some blue cheese in coffee. If you want to get it that way, you can definitely pull that out. And we would actually sometimes have some of that made for our regulars, mainly because it's like I think it's interesting to explore like funky stuff. And so we would have some made, and basically we would serve it to our most like loyal regulars, like meaning that the people that know us and have been to us for a long time. Like if you were to walk off the street and never had been to Spro in your life, and you're like, oh, I've heard this place has great coffee, and I was like, well, try this funky blue cheese coffee. You might think that we're crazy and never come back. It was like, okay, and well deserved. So that would not be for the new initiatives, the newly initiated. It would only be for those that have been with us for a while. George says, Devin, agree, but the chunks of cheese filling your martini, you'll pass. Yeah, it didn't sound so good to me. I was like, oh, that sounds weird. Devin says, I had to try it first, but heard in South America they put yellow cheese in the coffee. Oh, I have seen that. And you know, in different, and the cheese in the coffee is actually, it sounds strange. It's not terribly bad. And George says that people say they like haggis too. I'm wanting to try haggis. But the thing is, when you put like I've seen people put like cheeses, we put in butter, and of course, you know, to our sense, these seem really weird and like odd. But I found that, you know, in some respects, it's very much akin to putting milk in it because it's still a dairy product. You're still just softening the impact of the coffee. So in those respects, it's very similar. In fact, in the morning live stream, we even did that with I used a what is it, Amish farmer's cheese, but it wasn't a very melty cheese, so it just kind of softened and like was kind of inside, and then a little bit of the glistening oils would like mix in. It was relatively benign, perfectly fine, like nothing really. It just, you know, from our perspective as Americans and our palate and our, you know, menu choices, it's very, very distinctly different and very odd. Devin says he loves me some bull testes. You know, I've never had that. What do they call them? Rocky Mountain oysters? I've not had those. I'm open to trying it. I would like to try the haggis. To me, that sounds kind of oatmeal in guts with awful. It doesn't, at least it doesn't. I mean, it sounds like it could be awful, but you know, I'm willing to try it. Maybe put some ketchup on it. So good flavor, like pretty robust flavor. Nice body, good draw, like good resistance. Smoke production seems pretty nice. Really, no complaints with this cigar. George says it has a very white ash. It does. It does. Look at that. It's very white. I guess what that means, lots of magnesium in the soil. I think we can drop this ash. Yeah, there we go. Nice. George says you hit the halfway mark by 10 tonight. Maybe. Devin says in Miami, there was an Argentinian steakhouse that had stuffed cow intestines with cheese, and it was actually delicious. Whoa, that sounds crazy. Those Argentinians, man, they're a little bit crazy. I want to take the band off because, you know, I just feel like taking the band off. Yeah, Brian, we haven't seen Steven. I don't know what's going on with him, man. You should give him a call and see what's going on with him. I think we're getting some changing of the patterns of wind. I'm going to turn, meaning that I'm going to turn on the fan so that it blows the smoke out. So what do you guys got going on this weekend? Anything interesting? I don't know what I'm going to do this weekend. Guess I got to prepare to drive to Boston. I don't think anything's happening either. Nice. It's got a good body. Nice flavor starting out. It feels like it's getting a little bit heavy at this point, but it's clearing out well though. Brian says that he's cleaning. Oh, this weekend he's going to be cleaning out his garage. Maybe. Yeah, man. You should be building that new cigar room in your garage. Be kind of awesome. We can go hang out there and have a cigar. But you need exhaust, man. Exhaust system is like the key factor. Like I'm always thinking, to me, it's always about exhaust, man. Exhaust. George says, I'm doing Meerfell after midnight in Jersey. Oh, that's on Saturday night. Oh, that would be awesome. Saturday night. And then I'll be in Philly and Pete with April 1st. Oh, nice. Are you going to bring Pete down to Capitol this week or sometime? Or is he just going to be in Philly? Where are you guys going to go in Philly? George says, yes, he's going to bring Pete down to Capitol, but May 8th for a big party. So, ooh, big party May 8th. We got a plan on that. May 8th. What is May 8th? Is that a Saturday also? Oh, will I be here? Oh, no. Oh, no, I might not be here that week. I'm supposed to go back to Connecticut for an event. I think it's, well, I think the event is May 9th and 11th. 9, 10, 11. Is that right? May 9 and 10. Maybe I'll just come to Capitol on the 8th and then just drive up to Connecticut after. There's an event happening in Manchester, Connecticut, which is just outside of Hartford, called the New England Fine Woodworking Conference. So I'm like, ooh, that sounds kind of fun. I'm going to go check it out. George says, Harry's on Church Street in Philly. Ah, nice, nice. I will not be able to, if I go to Philly, if I go to Boston, I will not be able to come to Philly, fortunately. Devin says, George, I smoked the Escassos Churchill size, and I think it was better than the. Oh, really? The Escassos was better. The Churchill was better than Lancero. That's interesting. That's interesting. Oh, and that's George's birthday on the 8th. Excellent, excellent. Happy birthday to you. All right, let's plan on going there on the 8th. And George says that every one of the Escassos have that charm. I bought a box a while back of the small one, the little tiny Corona, the Noeas. I really like that one. I've smoked a lot of those. Those are really, really beautiful. Tony says that, Devin, that's blasphemy. All right, how's this coffee doing? Not very good. It's cold enough in here, despite the heater, that this is still a very cold drink. I know, but someone here recommended, so hey, it's always good to try. It's always good to try new stuff. It's always good to try new stuff. Whew. Actually, this got a little bit of a kick to it. It's got a nice body going on here, despite being a 3.5 inch by 50 cigar. Tony says, I haven't had a discusses I didn't like. I'm sure you mean the, uh, the Tatuaje one. I'm sure that's what you mean. Silly theory. Somewhere along the way, my Siri changed on my phone from a woman to a man. So it's like, hey, your alarm's going to go off at 7 o'clock. It's like, oh, great, great. I should change it back to the woman. I got to figure out how to do that. Yeah, the escassos. I like those escassos. Yeah, there's actually quite a bit of like, I'm surprised. All right, AJ, you've got some interesting cigars going on. George says it's better to change the language than the sex of the voice. I agree. I agree. Although I'd be as equally lost, but I don't really use Siri. Doesn't really understand me. Like, especially when she was a woman, we just couldn't find our way. It's really, really difficult and disappointing. Like I tried, but we're just two different people. Mom says that is my favorite smoke. I smoke it. Oh, this one? I can see why. Like, this is a nice, it's small, which means it's going to smoke relatively fast, but it's got a lot of like, it delivers a lot for such a small cigar. Like, I fantasize about having a morning cigar, like a cigar with coffee, sitting outside at a cafe table in the morning, just pretending to read a newspaper and just smoking a cigar would be kind of nice. Like I think about that every once in a while, like doing that, but I never do it because it seems kind of silly to smoke a cigar in the beginning of the day. But I think this would be too heavy for that. Like I want it to be lighter, like a light one that you can just kind of get there and like hold like this and be like, that's what I want to do. I probably would end up doing it on my porch, but I would like to do it in the middle of the city, just be like sitting there with a little coffee. I hear a dog outside barking. Hopefully he's not coming here. Sometimes I sit here with the garage doors open, wondering like, what if a coyote wanted to come by and attack me? How would I defend myself? Maybe get my domino and beat it with a domino. Mom says called the last call. Oh, we mean the last. Oh, George says, do you mean the last call with escassos? Yeah, the last call. There we are. Tony says for 34 minutes, the hot cakes petite is banging. Oh, okay. I don't think I've had that one. Also, for me, sometimes it's like, I don't know how much this costs, but like, let's say this cigar is like $8, $9. And it's this 3.5 inch by 50 cigar. Part of me is also like, and since I'm not smoking in the morning, or I'm not really doing daytime smoking, usually at night and hanging out with people or just watching shows, like, I want a cigar that's going to last and I know it's going to last an hour, hour and a half, maybe. Actually, it never lasts an hour and a half. No matter how big the cigar is, it's very rarely an hour and a half. But I always feel like, oh, if I spent $8, $9 on a small cigar, I could spend $8, $9, $10 on a larger cigar and get more time out of it. But this is actually it delivers quite a lot for a very small cigar. I'm really surprised. All right, well, there it is. 10 p.m. Guess what I'm going to call it so I can get out of the cold because I got the sniffles. So the plan is to be back next week, Thursday, 8 p.m. for another Thursday night hang. That's the plan. That's going to be the plan. We're gonna proceed with that as though we're normally doing it. But depending on what happens with my aunt and my trip to Boston, it may not. But I will again post to the community posts on this channel to let you know. I'll try to maybe I'll do it also on the main channel just in case. So yeah. So otherwise, let's plan on next week. Hot case is $56, like the Tataway Black Crab. Nice, nice. All right, so thank you very much for tuning in. Always good to see you here every Thursday night. Be back again next week. Hope you guys have a wonderful time out there. And yeah, Devin, Tony, George, Brian, everybody else, thank you very much for tuning in. Adam, good to see all of you. Hope you have a wonderful week and see you next time.